Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
My name is
And-
James.
And my name is Maddie B with the Countdown City Geekcast. David hit me up and said, "Do you want to do it?" I said, "Hell yeah!"
And here we
and
are.
Maddie B holding up with tradition. We ruined the intro there, but anyways, it's all good. But before we get to all the topics here, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I do want to shout out all of our lovely patrons here that are on the purple, red, and black Kyber Crystal tier. You can go to patreon.com and sign up. On the purple tier, we have Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Zach Netzel. On the red tier, we have Fenrir526, Matt Heath, Maya Morris. And on the black tier, we have Maka Tautala, Nathan Shank, Evan Opaker, and Liam McCown. Thank you so much for being hardcore patrons of ours.
Yes, thank you so much. Means a lot to
With
us.
that being said, I know the big thing I think everyone's talking about and everyone is extremely hyped about is, of course, the next Star Wars TV show that's going to happen on this Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. And it is, of course, Andor, the series I think we've all been kind of wanting to see. The more grown up, the more dark, the more serious. We're going to get it in about 2 sleeps from now. So, Matt, what is your opinion on what we're going to see, what you think we're going to see, and what have you thought of all the reactions so far?
I hope they keep the tone sort of the same as Rogue One. I love them revisiting these characters, or at least Cassian, and I'm very excited for it. And from what I've heard of, a part of the grown up portion of it is that we're going to dive into a little bit of the politics of how the Empire is running, and those sort of ideas. And I can't wait for it, to be honest with you. I'm very excited. I've heard mixed reviews from the first reviews that came in. I'm sure we'll get to that in a bit. And there's some mixed reactions in there. As a Star Wars fan who is very butthurt about the sequel trilogy, I'm just excited to dive back into a Star Wars world that I think that someone who's in charge of it cares. And I think that we're going to see that here. It's going to be cinematic. It's going to be big, as opposed to the Kenobi show, which felt very small, didn't it? It felt very small, almost low budget, if you would go that far. But
yeah, compared, I mean, just kind of really quickly, compared to what we've seen from Andor right now,
yeah,
it does feel like Kenobi was a little bit on the lower side of which is shocking. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Matt.
no, and it's all good. Interrupt me all day. I'm just an idiot here talking, but I I legitimately am excited about someone taking their time with something. We were just talking about this before stage, and David was like, "No, stop talking. We got to start the show." But 24 episodes is an investment, which
Yes.
means that we're going to flesh out characters here. I assume we're going to flesh out a world here. I assume it's not going to be rushed. Maybe the first few episodes we don't even know kind of what's going on. We're just kind of establishing the world as it is. I'm excited for a long form and weighted out sort of content from Star Wars. I need someone to care about it.
No, I agree 100%. And the fact that it's Tony Gilroy, and David and I did this, we did a podcast on Patreon. If you want to listen, it's on Patreon. And we talked a little bit about this. And it was like, giving this to Tony Gilroy and letting him use his mastery of screenwriting and the character building, and let him just go. And it feels like they made the right choice and letting him do. And I'm pretty sure he was like, okay, I need 24 episodes. They're probably like, okay, yeah, go for it. Like just do what you got to do. And it just feels yeah, like they fleshed it all out. Like they had the time, they took the time to finally go, okay, let's just map this whole thing out and let's just go. And as for, and David and I talked about this too, which was the first 2 episodes we hear of Andor, a lot of people are not too crazy about. A lot of people are like, the first 2 episodes are very slow, which, like you just said, Matt, and I'm like that. David probably the same. I'm all ready for that. I want that development. I want those characters to be really fleshed out. But all the critics say the 3rd episode is where it takes off. And like people are saying the 3rd episode is just amazing. And what else did you hear about that 3rd episode, David? I know you read some stuff about it.
I have been kind of avoiding the spoilers about it. All I've heard was it's spectacular. It lives up to the best Star Wars TV episodes they've ever done with like The Mandalorian.
Wow.
And I've also heard it's a slow burn getting to it, which I'm all for. I mean, you want to develop story, characters, and by the time we get to episode 3, now we're all really looking forward to it. We're all super hyped. And we're going to get a 3-episode premiere. So it's going to be essentially kind of like a Star Wars movie, the thing that they didn't announce at D23, which is very disappointing.
Oh, yeah.
But of course, like Matt said, they put in the time, they put in the investment. We're going to get 24 episodes, 12 episodes in season 1, starting Wednesday with a 3-episode premiere. I'm super hyped, looking forward to it. And this might usher in a new wave of storytellers and thinking on the side of Lucasfilm. Like Liam McCallion, our Patreon here, points out, he says he's hoping for Andor to find the next generation of writers and directors similar to what they did with Mando. That would be great. This show, Andor, it seems like it's totally separate from anything that Favreau and Filoni have contributed on. And of course, we all know that it was shot on location, no volume, no stagecraft, none of that inside and indoors with the new technology. And all the trailers have looked great. I mean, it's just mere hours away, it feels like. And of course, we're going to have a huge pregame podcast. We're going to invite a whole bunch of guests on and be on hours before the show and watch it. I know Colin and Matt are doing like a sleepover or something and watching it at his apartment. So
it's cute. It's really cute.
Are they gonna have onesies like matches?
You know, I would have. I would
They
have
probably are
them to do that. I'm not gonna lie.
But I totally agree with you, David, and it's and I don't want to say, because obviously Rogue One is Skywalker Saga, but it almost felt adjacent because of the way that it was filmed and the stylization of it. So I like this being fleshed out. All Star Wars fans right now are in this weird bucket where it's like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau or nothing. I'm not in that. Like, I love Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. I want them to make a million things that they want to make, but there's room in this universe for other people to tell their stories.
Yep.
And I really, really loved how they did Rogue One. I love the character setup and how it was filmed. I'm stoked on this new direction that they're going in, and I think the fans deserve it. What's the most popular shows you can think of in recent times? Maybe Game of Thrones,
Stranger Things.
A lot of these were a slow burn. It takes some time to establish these characters and not going back. They don't have the luxury now of going back to old tropes and bringing in like an R2-D2 just for a fan. Wow. They're going to have to flesh out this world on their own and give us new characters to love. And I can't wait, dude. I'm going to be up. Do you guys want to get matching onesies?
I think we should. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I call dibs on Salacious Crumb.
But you did bring up a good point, though, which is, shows like Stranger Things, even more, I don't want to say mature. That sounds bad, but like Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, the shows like that where they did take their time telling the story. It wasn't just like, we got to get into the story. We have to go, because I think with Star Wars, that's kind of the mindset, which is, as George Lucas famously says, faster and more intense. Like he wants to throw you right into there. And that does work. It does work. If you do it correctly, it will work. And we all know that from A New Hope. The movie started and George Lucas literally just threw us right into the action, and it was awesome. But like you said, there are opportunities to where you can really stretch out these stories and really dive into these characters. And that just makes me even more excited for this thing. And I've said it before, I think everything we've seen in every trailer is the first 3 episodes. Everything is the first 3 episodes. So we have no idea literally what this show is going to be about at all.
That would be great if that's
Is it completely done filming? So this is something I'm not caught up on yet. So
Yes.
24 episodes. So they filmed all 24.
Just the first 12 are complete. And I believe, I don't know, that I heard like Diego Luna said they were going to be going to production very soon on season 2. Like he was saying, like,
they had a complete beginning, middle, and end. They had a big plan to do 2 seasons of it.
Right.
The first season will be the first year of the 5 years before Rogue One, and the last year will be years 2 through 5, and each 3 episodes is going to cover 1 year in season 2, and it's going to be a block, and each block of 3 episodes next season will be controlled by a specific director.
Wow.
So they thought it out, man.
They
They
thought it
listened to
out.
us.
Yeah. We always say how sequel trilogies, like I said, some people love it. Some people love the sequel trilogy. That is their Star Wars, and some people did not like the sequel trilogy. So I'm not taking anything away from anybody, but it just feels like finally Lucasfilm was like given the chance to fully breathe and say, okay, let us really, really, really get this all mapped out. Like which is why I think Mando took that year off to really get Mandalorian season 3 just right, which is why now they're giving Tony Gilroy all this freedom. Like, okay, really flesh it out. Let's not jump into production until we have it all mapped out. And it feels like they finally got that chance. And
I really wish we could know what level of freedom Tony Gilroy had.
yes,
Did he have 100% complete freedom to just write whatever he wanted to, then turn it into the story group and just have them like double check for canon purposes? Or were there other kind of like hands in there? Were there a bunch of notes? I think Kathleen Kennedy says she always gives notes on stuff, but how much of those notes did Gilroy take into effect? I think that Tony Gilroy had 100% freedom on this, and Kathleen Kennedy was just like, Rogue One was a hit. Everyone loves it. If you can make it like that, do it. That'd be great.
Hopefully she didn't even touch a piece of paper or put a signature on it. Hopefully she just said okay.
Well, one thing you gotta remember about Tony Gilroy is he's worked with Frank Marshall on 4 Bourne movies. He's written 4 Bourne movies for Frank Marshall, which is Kathleen Kennedy's husband. So I'm pretty sure she knows him. Like they know each other. And so I think it was one of those things where she knows exactly how he works and what he does. And she's like, okay, you're going to do what you do. And we're going to go. We're going to take it from there, which I know I keep doing this, but which goes back to when she hired Michael Arndt to write episode 7. She knew exactly how he was supposed to work. And that whole thing fell apart.
And she still hired him.
Yeah.
She hired him and then she fired him.
Well,
Michael Arndt was like, it's going to take me 3 years to write this. And like, well, we need a movie out next year.
I have a lot. I can't wait for somebody to do a definitive, like, this is an account of what happened during those first few years when Lucasfilm was sold to Disney, because it gets weird. It gets really weird because the timeline and how it all worked out, and Harrison Ford hurting himself, and then what happened after that. It's just like what happened? Like, it's just so weird. I mean, we did it. They did it. They did all 3 movies. So, I just want to see if somebody ever investigates what happened during those first few years.
Well, if you find it out, you'll be shot immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's no way that anyone's going to flesh that out. I would love to see it too, but
it's going to be in like 15, 20 years when finally they're like, okay, this is what really happened.
Yeah. And all throughout the documentary, they're like, I would never kill myself.
Before we start this, I would never. What's even crazier is that we're still finding stuff out about the original movie. The Fox and how Fox was working with George Lucas and everything. Like, it's so crazy because we're still finding that stuff out. But
But one thing that with this world, and usually I don't like to combine my entertainment with politics, which Disney really doesn't like to let us do, but I am excited for them to flesh out the politics in this series.
Yeah, especially this time period. Yeah,
because that's something that we really didn't get in the original trilogy. We knew that the politics were affecting things, but we didn't get a lot of that. And then they started to give us a little bit in the prequels, right? We started to see, kind of how the politics were running. That was part of Palpatine's arc, right? But I really, and even in some of the Mando episodes, like that Bill Burr episode of Mando, when they're sitting at the table and they're kind of talking about the politics and they start bringing up the war stories and all these things, that's really interesting to me. And I hope that's really prevalent in this series. I really hope that we do get adult with it and we start talking about how the politics are affecting the people in this world. What are the views of the Empire? What are the views of the rebellion? Because as Star Wars fans, as long as we've been Star Wars fans, we know there's cases for both sides.
Yes.
So I would love for that to really come to fruition. I want to see kind of that like a House of Cards almost, but it's Star Wars. And and this guy Cassian Andor has to navigate his way through this with his heart and how he believes the hero arc, the saga that he's probably going to take on throughout this. It's going to be electric. But the politics, I'm excited to see how they kind of work with that.
Yeah, you got a point because they did bring up the politics, in episode 1, but nobody liked it. Everybody was all bored by it. Everybody was like, just get back to the lightsabers, get back to all this. So George Lucas was like, okay, y'all don't like politics. All right, screw it. But I love it in Clone Wars, man. He threw it a lot. There's like whole episodes about like loans, about interest, and I'm like, holy, like what? There's a whole episode about how much money they're gonna loan to the separatists versus how much money they're loaning to the
starts to make sense with the Trade Federation and everything else. You have to talk about the politics.
Exactly. And it was
how much debt. How much debt Wat Tambor was in.
Exactly. And then what's even crazier is you read the High Republic and you're reading about how they're like doing the hyperspace lanes and the routes and everything. And you're like, the Trade Federation came from there, and then it's all connected. But
I mean, what kid doesn't love blockades and trade disputes and I mean, come on, guys.
Come on, kids.
I would really love if there was an episode of Andor where it all just takes place in the Senate chamber.
Dude, I would love that. Give me Michael Clayton style dialogue and characters in the Senate. I am 100%.
But I think we're going to get that because some of the teaser shots.
Yes.
We definitely see the Senate, and we see them working through things. Exactly.
That is a great poster.
And so this, to me, when they release this poster, not only is it like psychedelic and cool, but it's also I think it sets the tone a little bit for the series. You see a lot of Empire symbols, you see some rebellion symbols. These are people who represent different parts, but they all have to kind of be under Palpatine and all of these. I can't wait to see. Like I said, if it's a House of Cards with Star Wars with lightsaber, well, not with blasters, I guess I'm cool with that. I want to know more about this world. If the kids don't watch it, I don't care. I don't care if the kids like it or not, because I'm not a kid.
Yeah, this is where it gets kind of controversial, which is the whole like, we've talked about this before, which was George Lucas said Star Wars is for 12-year-old boys. This is what Star Wars is for. And then you get to Empire, and he was like, no, this is too dark. But then you have Kirshner, and even his wife was like, no, we need to go darker. We're going further in the story. And then you get Empire Strikes Back, and there's Empire Strikes Back, which is considered one of the best Star Wars movies ever made. Yeah. And it's like, okay, is Star Wars for kids, or is Star Wars? Can you make it for kids and make it for everybody? I think you can do both. I think there's enough stories within Star Wars where you can make it for kids and introduce them, and it's amazing, it's fun, it's exciting. But then you can also make it very deep and very grown up, if you may.
Well, when Disney bought it, they had no intention of keeping this for kids. You know why? Because kids don't have any money. If you go to Star Wars Celebration, please find me the percentage of 12-year-olds there versus 40-year-old men. It's
you got a point. I didn't think about it.
It's not even close. Kids don't have any money.
They can't afford
it. They're not signing up for this stuff. They're not doing anything. So all you have to do is release some animated shows. The Mando, I think, is pretty kid friendly, even though it's I don't know if it's exactly kid friendly. I mean, they deal with a lot of adult themes and a lot of violence.
Slice it as an alien in half with the darksaber. I mean,
I think when they bought it from George, they knew that they're taking that dream from that 12-year-old boy, and they're saying, "Hey, we're going to make money on this," and 12-year-olds don't have any money. Okay, so and all Disney cares about is money. Let's agree on that.
I mean, that's any corporation, really. They are a corporation in the end. I mean, they care about their money and the bottom line.
And do we want 12-year-old boy content though? Either like at your age, like for example, if it came out and said, "Hey, George Lucas is back working with Disney, and they're making this content that's perfect for a 12-year-old boy," are you like stoked on that, or are you more stoked on like an Andor idea?
That's a kind of a tricky question to answer, because if you're calling 12-year-old boy content Star Wars: A New Hope, yes, I want more Star Wars: A New Hope 12-year-old boy content. To me, that wasn't really kind of like a kid's film. It was kind of.
I don't think it was at all.
It was kind of like wrapped inside of like that like marketing thing of being like predicated to children. But I mean, when you really delve deep into it, There was a lot of adult stuff in there. I mean, it wasn't like R-rated stuff, but I mean, it was like
They had
adult
a brother
themes.
kissing a sister.
Well, they didn't know that at the time.
Well, that was Empire. So
That was
Yeah.
Empire. But yeah, you're right. But the first movie, George Lucas did follow those tropes of the damsel in distress, which she ends up not being really in distress, and then you got the wise wizard, then you got the climactic battle at the end, and he followed those, but it was a very not child story. So
Yeah.
it is really interesting, to hear him say, "I made it for 12-year-old boys." Like,
Yeah.
I made Star Wars for 12-year-old boys.
And
But
he wrote that dialogue.
yes, he did write that dialogue.
And it's like, so you think 12-year-old kids are gonna? To me, George Lucas, and I love him. God bless him. He gave me one of the most beloved things in my entire life, but he has no idea what he made. I really don't think he does. He has no clue what he made. The intention he set out on is not what the final product was. And the final product was beautiful, but when you hear him talk about Star Wars, sometimes I'm like, I don't see that at all.
That's great. No, but no, we like to say, David likes to say that George Lucas was laying the tracks down as the train was like coming right behind him. He was just like, "No, I gotta do this." Like, he was just like frantically trying to put this thing together. And then when the train makes it, he's like, "Hey, look what I did." It's like,
yeah.
I mean, did you do that? I mean, if you look at the whole story about the edit of Star Wars and how the movie was saved in the edit, you're like,
McClunky.
McClunky. That's my favorite though. But yeah, it gets kind of weird. But anyways, back to Andor. That poster
they had a red carpet premiere for Andor, and they allowed fans, media, podcasts. I think our invitation was lost in the mail or whatever.
Yeah, it must have been lost.
It's all good. But yeah, there was a red carpet event that happened, and as you can see there, Kyle Solar, Fiona Shaw, Diego Luna, Genevieve O'Reilly, and I'm forgetting that actress's names, but she plays Bix in Andor. I think that's Cassian's like love interest, maybe. But yeah, they had a big red carpet event. It happened. They screened the 3 episodes, and of course, the social media embargo ended that night because I think media had the first 4 episodes, and of course, we talked about how everyone said that it was a slow burn, but episode 3 spectacular. There was one reviewer that said, and I believe it was Dan Murrell, that the first 3 episodes feel like a film. And that's what I was hoping for. I think I said it several times on the podcast, but it feels like that's what we're going to get. We're essentially going to get our de facto Star Wars film that we're not going to see until 2025. And that leads us to the next thing I wanted to talk about, was the fact that Rogue One, or actually Rogue Squadron, my bad, is essentially canceled. It's gone from the Disney slate, and the next Star Wars film is not till 2025, which is 6 years after the last Star Wars film, which I think is totally unacceptable. I mean,
I do too.
This is the biggest franchise, or one of the biggest franchises now in the world, and to wait that long to get a film, for me personally, I think we should get at least one Star Wars film per year, given that we see stuff like Marvel making like 5 per year. It's like, we can at least get one, don't you think? I mean, it's the same parent company, Disney, and it's like I feel like it's just kind of a bit of a mess at Lucasfilm. What do you think, James?
I mean, when pumping out these movies 5 at a time, Marvel, you can tell the visual effects and the quality is a little lower than it was whenever you go back to 2008 Iron Man. And those first few Avengers movies were pretty solid. And I heard that a lot of that has to do, I know this is not related, but with Marvel, and the reason the visual effects are starting to kind of look diminished is because they're pushing these movies out so quickly. And the directors they're hiring are amazing directors, but they're not visual effects directors. So they don't know how to shoot visual effects. And so they're doing something, and then they show them, and then the directors go, okay, do it this way instead. But they don't realize that that's an additional $200,000 they have to spend. Therefore, the movie's rushed. Therefore, these movies kind of are looking a little cheaper. So I am a little upset that we're having to wait 6 years for another Star Wars movie, because that is a very long time. We got spoiled. I dare say we did get spoiled there for those first few years. But at the same time, if it's done correctly, and if it's a director that we all know and trust, and it's a story that we're all going to be excited about, I'm okay waiting 6 years. But give us these little Disney Plus TV shows in between, please, to keep us happy, which is, I think, what they're doing. They're going to be giving us, okay, we got, Andor season 2, season 1, season 2, Mandalorian, maybe Book of Boba Fett. We got Ahsoka. We got, so Acolyte. I think we're going to be okay without a movie, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because if they do it right, it's going to be awesome. That's my opinion about that.
Matt, what's your opinion?
I agree. I mean, because Marvel, you could definitely tell it's diluted. Once you have so much content, it can only be so potent. And then once you increase that number, it starts to get watered down, and we can see that, and we can. But the Marvel fans are still very happy about receiving that content.
Yes.
But maybe not some. But there's reaction, there's traction, there's comments, there's posts, whether it's negative or positive. They're moving in a direction. They're building a world. I think that Disney, Star Wars is a little scared because of the reaction to the sequel trilogy and the reaction to Book of Boba Fett. I think the only thing that Star Wars fans have really liked since the end of those movies is The Mandalorian. There was even a lot of hate for the Kenobi series. I think they're playing with scared money. I think they're playing just a little scared. Now, they're also setting themselves up. I like the idea. I agree with James, where feed me a bunch of TV in the meantime, and I'll wait 6 years. But it's a dangerous bet, because if you wait 6 years and you release a movie that people do not like, you're setting yourself up for failure in a big way, and the backlash will be huge after a wait that long. So I think they have to figure out a way. Do we keep fleshing out the Skywalker saga? Do we try to find our way out of that? They're in a bit of an identity crisis mode right now. And I feel for them on that, because it's a real crisis. It's not idiots just in a room, lighting things on fire. It's like, this is a real problem. Do you stay with the Skywalker saga, or do you try to move away from that? And what do you do with this property that cost you so much money? So I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth on it. 6 years is a long freaking time, dude. We don't know. We don't know. Like, 6 years is a long enough time where I don't know if I'll be here to talk about it.
In 6 years,
and anything can happen.
You said 2025, right? That's when we're gonna get
2025. Yeah, 6 years from the Rise of Skywalker till the next film.
Yeah, that's a 10-year from Force Awakens. Like, that's 10 years from Force Awakens. We should have been getting a Star Wars movie every single year, and that was how they promoted it to us. Whenever this all started to work and all,
nonstop.
This was exciting, but it all goes to Solo. It all goes to the critical of what they thought of the sequel trilogy. Even though the sequel trilogy and Solo did make their money, and Rogue One made its money back and then some, they got scared. They got really scared with that, and it's like, man, I wish, I don't know, I wish they would not be so scared. But and then another thing that gets me is these directors they hired. We were supposed to get an entire trilogy from Benioff and Weiss. Like, that was promised to us. It was gonna be amazing. Season 8 Game of Thrones comes out, and Benioff and Weiss, that is over. It's done.
Oh, dead.
And then Patty Jenkins did that amazing video that we just saw, that the poster right there, and it was like, oh, this is gonna be good. Wonder Woman 1984 comes out, dead.
Yeah. And Taika
Waititi right now.
I feel like that's dead too.
That is, I think
I hope it's dead.
Done with
He didn't know Natalie Portman was in Star Wars. She's the most important character in the whole story. She's more important than Luke and than Darth. She's the reason why everything happened. Taika Waititi is out. If he's allowed to direct anything, I'd rather a Rian Johnson movie than a Taika Waititi movie at this point. And I don't want a movie from either one of them.
We might be getting, and I know your opinion about Rian Johnson. I have a high opinion of Rian Johnson, but
I think he's a great guy.
We may be getting that Star Wars movie now with what's happening. That might be his movie. Fun fact: he said that writing Glass Onion was harder than writing The Last Jedi, which I was like, that's funny. But the reason he said that was because
because he actually put a story in.
Well, no, he said.
Onion.
Well, no, that was the thing, was he said we weren't out. He said I wasn't writing a sequel to this movie. He goes, it was like, okay, this happened, this has to happen. Whereas Glass Onion, he had to start from scratch, and he gave himself a challenge. And I was like,
Disney F worded him. I don't know if we can cuss on here. Disney F worded him. They screwed him because they kept the whole time J.J. Abrams was working. They were so tight-lipped and so scared of anything getting out. They weren't even letting the director of the next movie know things that were going on. So he gets this movie, and he's been thinking of what he wants to do with it the whole time, and he just runs with it with what he thought he should do. He should have been involved in the first movie.
Oh no, I agree.
Yeah.
And one thing David told me, and I actually had to go back and I didn't trust you, but I was like, oh yeah, that is 100% correct. He wrote The Last Jedi based off of the Force Awakens script. He never saw the movie. So in his mind, this all made sense what he wrote in The Last Jedi.
It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah, he was like, oh, this is where you're supposed to go with this. Okay, Finn is out. What do I do with Finn? Oh, I'm gonna do this with Finn now because he can't be with Rey. Okay, so I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this, and this is gonna be great. And then when Force Awakens came out, he was like, oh wow, y'all kind of changed up a few things. And I think he had like a couple of months to rewrite a little bit of the movie to get it to going. In the end, I think The Last Jedi was great. I think it was fun. I'm interested to see what this 2025 Star Wars movie is going to be. Like, who's going to direct it? What's it going to be about? And like Matt said, are we going to finally break away from the Skywalker saga? Like,
what about the Old Republic? Just take us to the Old Republic. With the popularity of Game of Thrones, with $700 million spent on Rings of Power, like, fans really like this type of content, and the Old Republic can give us that sort of thing and Star Wars at the same time.
Wasn't that Benioff and Weiss? That was supposedly their trilogy.
Yeah, but I was super stoked on that. But
everybody was.
But obviously, listen to us. This is what Star Wars fans do every time we get together. We've done exactly what Star Wars fans do every time we get together.
Oh no, what do we do?
We devolved into just talking shit about the things we hate about Star Wars.
Well, no, we're not talking trash. We're talking trash about the stuff that they did before they were supposed to do Star Wars.
Oh no,
and here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. A lot of people think Thor: Love and Thunder suffered because Taika Waititi was already trying to get to Star Wars. A lot of people think he was already looking towards that. And plus, Taika Waititi also announced he's going to do Jodorowsky's The Incal, right? He's going to direct that, which is a crazy, crazy story. And then plus, the Our Flag Means Death. Like, this dude was insanely busy while he was making Thor: Love and Thunder. It's no wonder the movie kind of ended up the way it did.
Yeah, I think as Lucasfilm, you cannot get these guys that have multiple other projects and multiple other deals signed with other people. They have to like laser focus on Star Wars. I mean, there's you just cannot. Once Benioff and Weiss signed that Netflix deal, I knew they were gone. I was saying on the podcast, there ain't no way they're gonna have time for both Star Wars and Netflix, and they were gone. They went from a trilogy to doing the story on the first Jedi and the first Sith to just doing the first film, directing and executive producing the next two, and then they just totally left. Colin Trevorrow, the same thing. I don't know exactly what happened there, but I mean, he didn't have a great reaction to his last project, and then he was also trying to do other stuff too, and he ended up doing the Jurassic World stuff. And of course, Lord Miller is involved with all kinds of stuff, and they try to do Solo the way they wanted, and of course that didn't work out.
Well, it's like they're trying to set up a frat of directors. I don't understand what the obsession is of fans in all of these fandoms, Marvel, Star Wars, everyone's guilty of it, of like being excited about a director being named because it's a big director. Right. Why does that matter at all? In fact, give it to somebody I've never heard from before.
I like Kevin Feige with the Russo brothers. No one ever heard of them before.
Never. And like all of like some of the best movies of all time, like nobody knew the director before the movie was made. We know him now because the movie was so great. But it's not like we were sitting there like, oh my God, I'm glad Scorsese's doing this one. Nobody cared.
Scorsese's directing Thor, man. It's gonna be great.
But it's like nobody cared when he released his first movie. Nobody knew who Scorsese was. And I don't have to know who the director is
But I
of
think
these films.
the backlash of that will be big because everyone's going to be like, is this guy good? Can we trust him? Has he done a project this big? Like that's going to be the argument.
Well,
with
all
that.
of the big directors, they change themselves the second they get Star Wars. They change themselves. The
Yeah.
project is too big for them, and they're like, they refuse to input their own vision, and like, and they fall into this weird like trope. They feel like they have to stick to tropes and all these things, and I feel like just give it to somebody who's never done it before. Give it to somebody who we don't know. I don't care if I know who the director is. I don't care if they won an Oscar last year for some foreign film that I'm never going to watch. I don't care. Just give it to somebody who cares about it. That's the only thing that matters to me.
Yeah.
Give it to somebody who legitimately understands the content and cares about it.
What do
Yeah,
you
you
think?
can kind of point back to JJ, but JJ he was watching dailies for other films on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
So he
And
wasn't
and
100%
Star Trek
invested.
and Star Wars, doing both of those, I don't know if you're allowed to do that, to be honest with you.
And, not to mention he's also, and I had to look it up, he's also producing the Mission Impossible movies. He's not executive, he is producing these movies.
Oh my
These movies
gosh.
are amazing, by the way. So
Yeah,
this
Mission
fool-
Impossible 3 was great. It's super
so this
underrated.
fool
Yep.
is just, he was so busy. It was disgusting that
Well,
that
Tom
he
Cruise
did
is
it
a magic bullet.
anyways. Yeah, I don't know how.
And we were going to have our Top Gun for Star Wars and Rogue Squadron. Now it's done.
Done because of 1984. Wonder Woman was so bad. That movie was just, it was just not a good movie. Anyway.
But Rogue Squadron being canceled is crazy to me.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
It's almost just as crazy as when WB was like, yeah, we're just going to write off the Batgirl film. Like, it was like, it's such a fumble. It's like, we've been waiting for this for a long time. You released a video game. We played the video game. It was very intricate and good. It was a good video game. It's difficult to play if you're a little drunk. Just saying, for people at home who haven't played it yet, don't play it drunk because you'll get dizzy as hell. But it was a great game. It was an incredible game, and I was excited for the movie. And it's just, sorry, we're just gonna write that off. It's gone now.
Well, I will say at least they did not shoot the entire movie and then write it off like they did with. I mean, Batgirl was almost. They said it was almost done. They still had some stuff to shoot, but at least they weren't 90% of the way done with a Star Wars movie before Disney was like, hey, we're done.
Are we gonna get a funeral showing too of Rogue Squadron for everybody involved so they can go back and watch it?
That's an interesting thing. Was there a script written? Was there pre-production already done with this thing? Like, how far along were they until Christmas Day of 2020 when they were like, yeah, no, we're not doing it.
Yeah, and speaking of video games, we are going to get Jedi Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
It would be incredible. And what I was hoping that they were going to do is either a movie or TV show with Cameron Monaghan, right? That's the actor's name.
Yep.
He's age appropriate. We're fitting right into these timelines. Why not in between this time of the 5-year time, shoot a movie with Cameron Monaghan and give us that with the game, where maybe like as you're finishing the game, the show is on, and then you can dive into that, or maybe there's a movie or something. I think they have so many ways to give us something in between this time.
And you can go even beyond that, Matt. You can go way beyond that. You can have a book. You can have the game. You could have a TV show and then conclude it with a movie. And bam, you hit every single market where you can make a lot of money.
It's insane. I hope that they would not have chose that actor if they didn't plan to use him in live action. There's no reason. They could have just made up an actor. It's not like Cameron Monaghan was the most popular dude ever. It's not like you got Matt Damon to star in the Jedi Fallen Order. It's, you know what I mean? Like they could have just made up a character. It didn't even have to be. They chose him for a reason, and they haven't used him yet. And I'm really wondering why.
Yeah, that's a really good question. He's young, he's very talented. Like you say, he's not as popular as a lot of, he's getting there. He's actually on the rise. He's doing pretty well for himself.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Why hire a young, handsome, athletic, awesome looking actor and then be like, we're just gonna stick you in video games, man.
Yeah. We're just gonna CGI you.
We're not going to let you do
There has to be something in the works. I was actually really hoping that there would be a drop at D23. And I often get outside of the box on my hopes. There are things that are never going to happen. But I did have a little bit of hope that they would say something. Maybe Cameron Monaghan. He's got to come into maybe the Mandalorian or something.
If anything, he would come in around Andor.
Or
Andor would be,
and Kenobi, right? Because he could
Kenobi.
have
Yeah,
come in.
he could have dropped in a Kenobi. I remember he was at the park the other day because I used to work at Disneyland, and he was there, and everybody was excited. And I was like, "Whoa, my gosh, what's he doing here?" And he was just promoting the lightsaber. I was like, "Damn!" Like I thought they were gonna make an announcement, like oh, he's in the park. Why is he in the park? And then they say he's gonna be in the next show or something.
They put his lightsaber as part of the so that's what he was there for.
Yeah, I was really upset though, and I had just missed him by like 2 seconds. Like I walked out to the front, and everybody in the front was like, "Oh my gosh, did you see him?" And I was like, "Who's like Cameron Monaghan just left?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's great, that's amazing." That's no, I didn't want to see him at all. Like what? Anyways,
yeah. But speaking of announcements here, I want to talk about D23. So Matt and I were actually at the Cowboys game. We didn't know it, but we were at the Cowboys game. While D23 was going on. And of course, like I said on our Patreon daily podcast with James, I thought my phone was going to be blowing up with announcements and like, oh my gosh, did you see that? And I'd say, no, I'm at a football game. But yeah, we really didn't get much at D23, which was a really big disappointment. I know most of the hype was fan created. There was maybe thoughts of maybe a new direction, a roadmap possibly. I know a lot of people didn't think that, and I was kind of maybe on the side of, yeah, we're probably not going to get anything like that. But I was hoping against hope, and of course, yeah, we didn't get any mentions of any films at all. We found out that Rogue Squadron, we got the opposite. We got films taken away, which I mean, that's an incredible thing there. But yeah, I mean, no mention of Acolyte either at all. No trailer, no casting. And we're getting all these reports from like Deadline and Bespin Bulletin of all these castings, and it's like, why didn't they talk about Acolyte? That kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. We got a lot of stuff in place. There's a lot of news, and we have a lot of people doing the show. And of course, they didn't mention anything about a Boba Fett Boba Fett season 2, and we all think that's happening. And we got the trailer for The Mandalorian season 3 that we kind of saw most of it at Celebration. But I think that was like thanks to us because we kept on asking for it every podcast. But
and it also tells the Jedi.
Yeah, that's basically it tells the Jedi. Yeah, we got a trailer for that
huge.
As well.
Qui-Gon and Dooku's origin stories. I mean, that's huge. We got more than Marvel got, at least. We didn't get what we wanted, but I think Star Wars won the D23 if you're going to compare them to Marvel. But I'm super stoked on Tales of the Jedi. That announcement that came through, and you can see Dooku fighting Yaddle. I mean, my God. What the hell?
That was intense to be like, oh man, everybody freaking out.
And Disney's animation studios and Dave Filoni in charge of that, and going back to that sort of Clone Wars style animation, we know that we're going to get really good stories, and we know that we're going to get it in a really beautiful way. So I'm really stoked on Tales of the Jedi, but that is kind of the only thing we got, right?
I mean, as for like definite announcements of when it's coming out, we did get that with because we didn't hear about Bad Batch until after D23, right?
Right. We didn't hear it until after. It's going to drop early January, and James, you kind of figured out that it seems like the Mandalorian season 3 may be affected by that news because, of course, with Bad Batch, we're going to get like 16 episodes, and it seems like Lucasfilm doesn't want concurrent shows running simultaneously. So that means that Mandalorian season 3 won't drop earlier than April of next year, which is kind of a bummer because we all thought February is when we're going to get it. But of course, once they moved Andor, that started the dominoes falling where if you move Andor, you got to move Bad Batch, then you got to move everything else that was in line. Hopefully the video game doesn't get affected because the video game was supposed to come out, Jedi Survivor was supposed to come out in April.
I don't think that's going to affect the
anything.
I think we're safe for now. But yeah, if you do go to the Mandalorian Twitter website, it just says streaming 2023. It does no longer say streaming February 2023. So I think they have dropped the February date, and now they're gonna and now they're gonna push it. They're gonna probably push it back, probably to coincide with Celebration. I think something about Celebration is probably gonna happen. Who knows? They may drop the first episode there at Celebration, like they did with Kenobi.
Which was huge.
That was a huge thing. So big that if you watch the freaking A Jedi's Return, that was the ending, was the red carpet there at Celebration. I didn't watch that because I was still angry I wasn't there. But yeah, so that could actually be what they're doing. They're gonna push back Mandalorian to Celebration to show it there, the first episode of Celebration. So
that would make a lot of sense.
Yep, you heard it here first, folks.
You heard
James
it here
and I will
first.
be in attendance.
Yes.
Unless we lose the lottery.
But yeah, the Acolyte stuff. I mean, we're seeing casting fleshing out. We're starting to see some of that stuff, but I don't know if this is going to make it to actual production. I'm going to go ahead and you heard it here first. I think Acolyte might be canceled before it's released.
See, I think it's gonna go. I think it's gonna do pretty good.
I wouldn't bet against you, man.
I think it might get canceled. I haven't heard enough about it. It's very
Andor was kind of the same way, because if you go back to like January, February, March, we were still like, okay, Andor's coming out, but they're not even saying anything about it really. And it's not
Pizza Kid says it's not getting canceled, so it's not getting canceled.
I mean, how could I go against Pizza Kid?
That is a reliable source right there. It is not getting canceled.
Yeah.
But now like Andor is getting pushed pretty hard now. Like it's like a lot of people are getting excited for it. So who knows? I think Acolyte's still gonna happen. Lando is for sure getting
Lando.
That's a possibility. I mean, of course, they got another huge piece of talent there in Donald Glover, and I mean, he signed a big contract with Amazon, and of course, he's within the Disney umbrella with his Atlanta show, so he has that connection. But of course,
busy.
he played Lando in Solo, as we all know.
He's beyond busy right now. I mean, that guy is insanely talented and busy. So yeah, good luck trying to get him to do a show for Disney.
And then he quit his illustrious rap career. I mean, my gosh, Childish Gambino from the Clouds.
Did he quit?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't made a song in a really long time. I mean, I don't know, but
like he's retired. He's only doing acting.
He's a missile, and anybody who's lucky to sign him will get it. But it takes a long time for his projects to come out. So it's always a really nice thing when he's on board, but it's also kind of like a negative thing because it's like it's going to take forever for this to come out because he's working on a million things at one time.
It tells me secrets, so let me know if you want me to spell. Nice. So I guess it is certain Lando is definitely not going to happen. So you heard it here.
you heard it here first. But if Acolyte gets canceled, boys, we might have to go shirtless on the podcast. You guys might have to. We might have to make a bet here. But I think we're
already wearing onesies for Andor.
Okay. But I'm totally down. If you guys invite me on, I will buy the onesies. We'll go to Amazon. We'll make sure everybody's sized right. We'll make sure it's over $25 so I get free shipping. We'll send them to everyone's address, and we'll have a nice digital watch party. Anybody in the chat who wants to be a part of this, make sure send your super chats. If you're on Facebook, send some stars because this is going to fund the program. Okay, I promise you, it'll be worth it.
Smash that like button, subscribe.
I'm going to be I have a very busy 2 days now. Monday and Tuesday are going to be insanely busy for me. And I'm like, well, I have the strength and adrenaline to stay up and watch all 3 episodes of Andor as soon as they drop. Like, I'm nervous I'm going to fall asleep. So,
well, I'm definitely not. Honestly, the whole thing was a lie because I'm going to be on the road. I actually have to leave on Tuesday.
No.
Yeah. Well, my fiance's grandmother passed away at the ripe age of 96. Died the same day as Queen Elizabeth. No, it's a celebration when you go at 96.
Yeah.
There's no mourning at 96. It's just like, hey, you made it this far. It's going to be a party. But we got to drive all the way to Delray Beach, which is about 30 minutes north of Miami. So we're driving from here. It's 19 hours. I'm going to be on the road. I'm not even going to be able to do any of my regular showings next week. So I'm definitely not going to be able to do the premiere stream. But I'll still get you guys some onesies.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Nice.
What else you got over there, David?
So yeah, I did. Speaking of Acolyte being canceled, I did want to talk about all the castings that are being reported. So yeah, so what we do know right now is the Acolyte is going to be a Disney Plus show, and the showrunner right there, if you're watching us on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, is Leslie Headland. She's the acclaimed creator of Russian Doll, and that's on Netflix, and that's essentially, I think, how she got noticed. And the only confirmed casting we have is this person. It's Amandla Stenberg, and she's going to be the lead, and that was confirmed by StarWars.com. And she also posted on Instagram. This is the only person we know for sure that's been cast. But of course, there's other channels out there that tell us, hey, look, these other people have been cast. So the other big casting is right here. And if you're familiar with this guy, he was on maybe the most popular show, breakout show last year on Netflix, which
the biggest show on Netflix. Just to be clear, it is the highest watched show on Netflix.
It beat Stranger Things?
Yes. Stranger Things season 4 could not beat this show.
Incredible. So
Squid Game is huge.
Yeah. This is Lee Jung-jae. So he is an Emmy-winning actor, and if you saw him on Squid Game, he is a terrific actor. He did an awesome, phenomenal job with that role that he had. And now, of course, I believe they're doing a second season of that. Yes. And of course, apparently, according to all the outlets out there that have found out this information, they are reporting that he will be in the Acolyte series, as well as this person. And I'm not familiar with this person at all, but according to, I believe, Deadline and Hollywood Reporter, they're saying that this person, I believe his name is Manny Jacinto, and he is from The Good Place. He has been cast along with another person named Charlie Barnett from Russian Doll, which has a connection with Leslie Headland, the writer, executive producer, showrunner of Acolyte, and of course, Judy Turner Smith, who was rumored to be cast all the way as early as last September, who was on The Last Ship. So
are these actual castings, or is this like a Mike Zero?
No, yeah, there's no Mike Zero content here, but
we don't do that. We don't do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So these stories are from like Bespin Bulletin, Deadline, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, but
well, I like the cast. I mean, it's a handsome cast.
Yeah.
They're all it's very, very talented too.
Yeah,
and like you said, what's his name just won an Emmy this past Sunday.
What's his name?
Squid Game. Yeah. I can't even say his name. I'm terrible at names. But
Lee Jung-jae.
But yeah, they did a list of like the top Netflix shows, and Stranger Things season 4 could not beat Squid Games. Like
Squid Game is
big as Stranger Things season 4 was, it did not beat Squid Games.
Yeah, and well, it's really hard to go against heavy Asian content because I mean they really rally behind their content. I mean they just do, especially like Koreans and Chinese, Japanese, like they will have it on 5 screens in their house even though one person's watching it. It's really hard to go against them, and the fact that they beat out Stranger Things season 4, which we know is at least for us here in the States was, I mean, it's just so monumental. It was everywhere, memes, it was all over everything. It was the biggest thing in the world. The fact that Squid Game still is number 1 there is incredible. How much that had to do with this actor, I don't know. but adding him to the mix doesn't hurt, I would assume.
It's a good face to have. Good, on a show like this, a new Star Wars show, and we talked about directors, like you don't care about but it is the actor though. If you have a good actor on board, people are gonna like it. But then again, George Lucas did not have well-known actors whenever he cast the first Star Wars movie. So
yeah, he didn't know he cast Indiana Jones.
Yeah, how did he not know he cast Indiana Jones?
He tried not to cast Harrison Ford. He tried everything not to cast him, but he.
I know that's so bizarre to think that he did everything he could to make sure Harrison Ford was not in that movie. And it shows. You see, okay, so there's TikToks going around of like them talking to Harrison Ford about Star Wars. When you put the costume on, how did it feel? Like, he was like, I got a paycheck. Like that's all it was. I got a paycheck to play Han Solo again. But then when you hear him talk about Indiana Jones, man, he's like, he's over the moon about Indiana Jones. I think because he knew he was wanted for Indy. Like he knew like this is gonna happen. mean, yeah, Tom Selleck was cast, but we're not gonna talk about it.
But that happens a lot in big franchises. Like other than Dan Aykroyd, I don't think like when the other Ghostbusters talk about being a Ghostbuster, they don't care. They're like, oh, the proton pack was heavy. Let's talk about the film where I'm actually here to talk about. They don't really care.
But Dan Aykroyd's like,
he's just
he starts talking weird, man. He starts talking.
He cares about the Crystal Skull. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well,
definitely
care about the Crystal Skull, guys. Come on now.
We talked about the Crystal Skull the other.
Y'all
weren't here. Y'all were
I'm
here.
not trying to have bad dreams tonight. I mean, come on.
Before we go on, I know it has nothing to do with anything we're talking about at all. The Cowboys did win, just so you know, 20-17.
Yeah.
Cowboys did win. All right,
Cowboys did win.
I
don't care about the NFL teams at all. I went to Virginia Tech, so I like my college football team, the Virginia Tech Hokies. Show your love and support if you're in the chat, please. But I don't give a damn about NFL teams. I wanted to see Tom Brady take the field because I saw Michael Jordan play. I was really young. I was like 6 years old. So I saw the GOAT in that sport play live. I wanted to see Tom Brady take the field live. I do have to say, though, AT&T Stadium is an incredible place.
Cavern.
It's almost like, speaking of Star Wars, and we're talking about these big, huge cinematic things. Like when you see this stadium in person, it's almost like something like that.
It's like seeing an alien mothership.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell is this? Is it even real? And the fans before the loss were great. It was a little rough on the way out because my girl she's from Florida, so she had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stuff. So I'm like, I'm not fighting for you. I'm not a fighter. Okay.
Look, you're the one who wore that, not me. All right. You
should have took your proton pack and just...
Well, I'm good at talking smack. I'll talk smack with the best of them, but I'm not.
I believe you. I believe you.
I'm not getting beat up today.
So David one time said they could have Celebration there in the AT&T.
Oh my God. I could only imagine
how
like Liam Neeson comes out to talk about Tales of the Jedi in AT&T Stadium.
That'd be awesome.
It would be huge. But I don't want to pay $15 for a beer, so keep it out of there. keep it out of there. Just go to a small convention center where I can pay
Jerry
$6
Jones
for a beer.
He would never let anything like that happen at the anyways, back to Star Wars. We were talking about Star Wars. It's fine. Yeah. What else do we got today?
So yeah, I mean, thinking about Celebration, it's in April. It's going to be in London. James and I hopefully will be there. We'll make the trip across the pond there. And man, it feels like it's right around the corner.
Yeah, it feels. I heard there's 14 more Sundays until Christmas. So just kind of makes you think of how fast it's going to go by.
Do you think people in London feel like Star Wars is more their movie than ours because of the accent?
That's a great question. And plus, it was shot there. So I don't know. I think it is.
I could see how they could think that like it's more their movie than our movie, right? And over here in the States, because like they all speak in the accents, and a lot of it was filmed over there.
I think that's a good question to ask when we're there, James. Do you feel like it's more your film or an American film?
I feel like they'll get mad at us for even asking that question. Like they'll be like, you Americans would ask that type of question.
Oh yeah.
But
so Matt brought up something interesting. I just want to say this. I thought about this past weekend. On the topic of goats, how many goats have you seen in person with your own eyes? So Matt mentioned Tom Brady. I was thinking James and I have seen John Williams. That's one goat right there.
That was
definitely a goat.
That was like top tier. And I saw George Lucas, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and
in the
John
same
Williams,
room all together.
But Harrison Ford is a goat. Is Mark Hamill a goat? So he's known for Joker and he's known for Luke Skywalker, but does that qualify him as the GOAT? That's like he won 2 Super Bowls. Do we count him as a GOAT? Technically,
he's the Eli Manning of.
But here's another question. Before he passed away, the great Irvin Kershner, would you consider him a GOAT? Even though a lot of movies he did were not that popular, but he still did direct Empire Strikes Back. So.
Right.
I loved RoboCop too.
Well, it's one of the greatest films. It's one of the RoboCop was great. RoboCop and Empire Strikes Back, I think you get GOAT status on that because those are two pieces of 80s lore that will never go away. But I guess I could use that same thing for Mark Hamill, but I don't know. Like, I can put Harrison Ford in the GOAT category because of all of the things that he's done.
Yes.
Indiana Jones, Han Solo, amongst the other films that he's done. I mean, the man has had an incredible career. George Lucas created this thing that has spawned this entire huge franchise that Disney bought for $100 trillion or whatever. And so he's a GOAT. But if I think of GOATs that I've seen in person, I've met Lil Wayne.
Where did you meet Lil Wayne at?
So again, my girl's a radio DJ, so
okay.
I come across these folks sometimes. But Lil Wayne's a GOAT. I don't know. I can't think of like other than I saw Michael Jordan. I saw Tom Brady play. Lil Wayne was huge. I've never seen like Harrison Ford or anybody from the Star Wars movies really. I mean, I met like some of them, like Spencer Wilding and like, off characters, but no one who was like, oh my gosh, like you're here. Like Ewan McGregor. Maybe Ewan McGregor might be goated because Moulin Rouge was huge, even for the ladies. And then, obviously the prequels and all of that. He might be close to that category for me, but I don't know. I don't know who else I could really center in there.
Well, who do you consider to be the best actor to play Obi-Wan Kenobi at this point? Is it Alec Guinness still, or has Ewan McGregor surpassed him?
Oh, Ewan McGregor by far. It's not even really close.
But it's not a fair competition, though, because Alec Guinness got 3 movies. Ewan McGregor's gotten a whole show plus 3 movies. So,
well, I don't know if that's
but Alec Guinness won an Oscar too.
Yeah, well,
not for playing.
But he did get an Oscar nomination. He did get an Oscar nomination for Kenobi. So,
well, he was pretty much out of it. I mean, he was pretty much out of it after the first film. I mean, no way. Ewan McGregor all day.
Yeah, true.
It's not even close.
Okay. Did you hear that George Lucas decided to kill Obi-Wan Kenobi while they were filming Star Wars? Like, they'd already started production, and then he was like, yeah, I got to kill Kenobi. So Alec Guinness signed on to this movie thinking he was going to go the whole way through the movie, only to find out while they're in Tunisia, hey, by the way, you're going to die.
Did you guys watch that the remake of the scene 38 or whatever? The remake of the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader.
I liked it.
I liked it too. And I thought it gave it a lot more like weight and volume because sometimes I go back and that's such a pivotal moment in Star Wars. And I'm not going to, it still is and it always will be. But the way it kind of went down was, I don't know. It could have been a little bit better, I thought.
Well, the way George Lucas describes it, he says it's 2 old men fighting. So, I mean, it looks like 2 old men fighting.
But Darth Vader doesn't look too much like an old man in the next movie. You know what I'm saying? Like,
he gets really messed up, and we don't know how much more messed up he gets between that time period. So that's kind of one of those things that they can actually kind of retro kind of address.
That's why, to me, the prequels are my favorite Star Wars movies. I didn't understand the later ones when I first started watching them because of my age. So when I first started watching the prequels, just based on age, they made a lot more sense to me than the older movies did. And I started to develop a love for those a little bit later. But once you see, like, as when you're a kid who grew up, because I'm 32. So when these movies came out and we see the prequels and we see these lightsaber battles and we see these like, crazy acrobatics and these space, like the original trilogy, while I love it and I know that they're incredible, I'm not hating on them at all. They just didn't hit for me the same.
No, that makes sense. And what's really funny is watching Kenobi. Okay, controversial, hot take, but when I watch Kenobi now and when I see the fight in A New Hope, it makes more sense now, that fight in A New Hope. Like after seeing Kenobi and everything and watching A New Hope and then meeting again, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like that context is there for me to where it makes sense why the fight looks the way it does.
Yeah,
for me, that's just me. That's how I view it.
But
no,
it's
I
true.
agree. watching the prequels and watching the double-edged lightsaber and then watching Kenobi do a flip over Darth Maul and then them just fighting, and you're like,
Yeah.
what is happening? You know, it was the coolest thing. And it's funny you bring up the prequels. David, you sent Colin and I a blast from the past today. Not the movie with Brendan Fraser, but that's a great movie. But you sent us a commercial that was made back in 1999, and it was a Pepsi commercial.
Put it
And
on, David.
The moment I saw the picture, I was like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what this video is. And it just took me right back to when I was like, what, 10, 11? Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh.
While David gets that pulled up, another thing that I really love for the prequels, the all-time fighting move that ever happened in the prequels happened in episode 1, and it was the Obi-Wan Kenobi block behind the back and the immediate jump to the front to block the lightsaber against Darth Maul.
Oh yeah.
That move, hands down, made me a Star Wars fan for life. When that battle sequence was going down, he just lost his master. Things are going on in Obi-Wan's head right now, and he's just frustrated, and he's trying not to tap into the dark side. You can tell, but he's hitting these moves, and I'm like, dude, it's really hard to watch the original trilogy after those sometimes.
So did you ever hear? So right before that fight happens, Kenobi is he's bouncing, like he's like
he's ready to go. Yeah,
he's ready to go. Did you hear that was before action? Like Ewan McGregor was.
Oh, he was getting ready,
and then they yelled action, and then he goes,
and it was perfect.
And George Lucas was like, "Keep that in there. Let them see that he's like he's ready to go." For me, it was the behind the back Darth Maul move, though, when he goes behind his back and blocks.
Yeah.
For me, that was like, oh, this is the coolest lightsaber fight ever. You know,
for sure.
That was.
But,
speaking of which, I just saw something on TikTok, which I've never seen this footage before, and I'm still amazed that there's still footage of Star Wars behind the scenes I haven't seen. The original Dooku / Anakin and Obi-Wan fight in Attack of the Clones. They had a full-on fight that they choreographed, but apparently somewhere they're saying it was Christopher Lee, but somewhere Christopher Lee said he should move a little bit slower instead of moving as fast as they had originally had in mind. And if you watch it, it is pretty cool what they had in mind for how he fights and everything behind the back blocks and everything. It is pretty cool. And it just makes me wonder who decided not to do that type of fight in episode 2. I don't know.
Yeah, all right, I got the video if you want to see it. The video I sent to James.
Here goes.
The blast from the past. If you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, check it out. Here it goes.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Obi-Wan, we've got to save the Queen!
We're under attack! Mr. Jar Jar Binks, come for comic relief.
Emergency landing on Tatooine.
No! Pod racing is with. Love you, Mom.
Love you, Padme. Oh no! Darth Maul! My brains are spilling out!
Oh, joy. The end.
This is the weirdest date I've ever been on. I'm out of here.
Go you must.
Farewell. Bye-bye.
Star Wars Episode 1 cans. Collect all 24 this summer.
Wow. And it's like the Ants animation. Remember the movie Ants?
Yeah.
Oh my god. That took me right back, man. Just there was another one where he's like a cab driver taking her to the movies.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
yeah.
He's like flying in the air, and then he lands in front of the theater, and then she's like, all right, go. And they're drinking Pepsi the whole time. That's why I always say Pepsi and Star Wars go together very, very well. Like that's the go-to drink when it comes to Star Wars. But yeah, that commercial. So you said you're 32, Matt? Like,
yeah.
So do you remember seeing all that for episode 1 and everything?
Oh, 100%. I remember because at this point I had seen the 3 movies because my uncle and my dad were big fans. We had them all on VHS. So as a kid, I had my most watched movies growing up was Ghostbusters 1984 and Empire Strikes Back. There's I still have those VHS tapes back in my parents' house, and you can't even play them even on a VHS player anymore because I've worn it out from rewinding it so much. But when the new ones came out, it was obviously very appealing to me because I was like, okay, well, this looks like, the other movies that I'm interested in. It looks like, the graphics are up to date and all this stuff. When episode 1 was in the theaters, I remember bawling my eyes out when Qui-Gon died. And everyone should,
Spoiler.
yeah, everyone should cry in that scene. And what the hell, George Lucas? Again, another thing I'm pissed off about. You get a great actor like this, and he's dead immediately. Why?
Well, he knows he can bring him back as a ghost.
Yeah. So way later on the final
Like,
episode
way.
of a mediocre show.
23 years later.
But no, I loved all of the marketing and all the fast food chains. I remember at the time they don't do it like this as much anymore. But fast food chains at the time were very centered in on these types of things. And I believe Burger King had the Star Wars stuff because they had the Pokemon and the Star Wars stuff. And I remember specifically requesting those toys. Sometimes you get a Happy Meal and you get the same toy, asking my mom to ask them for a different one out of there. Like, is there another one, trying to complete the set. But no, I was enthralled with Star Wars at that time.
It's not the way. Yeah, Taco Bell had a whole thing. You get a whole poster with a meal. Like, like they don't do that anymore at all, And so that was. I used to have those posters. I used to have them. And at Celebrations, somebody had them for sale. Like it was like 4 posters.
All of them?
Yeah, and it said like Taco Bell on the bottom, and I'm like,
oh my gosh.
The dude was asking. I'm like, I'm not. I need that. But I can't. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Instead, I bought a $10 Jar Jar Binks cup, which I'm just over the moon.
Oh yeah, that cup. I have a Batman Forever mug, one of the crystal ones.
I have Robin, and I have Batman as well.
That's a great one. But we need to if Star Wars Stuff Podcast is changing the culture, let's bring back fast food restaurants promoting the hell out of movies and having awesome toys and collectibles.
That would be.
What happened to that?
You heard it here first, folks. Star Wars Stuff Podcast is going to bring it back to fast food restaurants.
It has to be. I mean, my gosh, they used to be able to be like, "Oh my freaking god, can you believe this toy I just got with my Happy Meal?
I got a coffee mug."
Yeah, I'm playing with it in the bath, setting up intense war zones in the bathtub with Power Rangers versus Star Wars characters or whatever else.
It was a glass. It was a glass coffee mug in a Happy Meal. Like, who thought kids are gonna love this?
Yeah,
there are no OSHA regulations back then.
Yeah, we're gonna give them a whole coffee mug.
And Pokemon had the little jars, I think, or something. Like they had all 150 of the original Pokemon you could collect for a little while there too.
Remember the Beanie Baby? Beanie Baby is
that was a huge craze. Yeah.
Oh, anyway. Actually, this is a great idea too. So while we're on the idea of challenges, so if fast food brings back toys that are heavily centered around major franchises that we love, I will do a live stream from my bathtub, the same as I did when I was 8 years old. Live stream from the bathtub, bubbles and all, with the collectible toys, and we'll work out a scene.
That all right?
Maybe for Patreon.
Maybe, that's a Patreon episode.
Patreon only. That's a
Patreon exclusive Patreon episode. But no, yeah. You sharing that, David, I was like, wow, that took me right back. That was amazing just to see that. What were we talking about? Star Wars? Oh yeah, we're talking about the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. I liked how they did it, but at the same time, me being the purist, I'm like, no, it needs to be the original. Like I saw this amazing like tribute to Star Wars video on YouTube. I love watching those. There's some amazing editors out there. Yeah. And it was going good, and then they show that sequence. And I turned it off. I was like, nope, it's not Star Wars. And I felt bad for doing that. And then I'm watching another one about the saga, the whole thing. And then in the middle of it, Luke is on crate, and he turns on his lightsaber, and it's the green lightsaber. And I was like, all right, okay, I turned it off there. I was like, okay, I see. I was like, there's a reason. Anyways, but yeah, so stuff like that. I'm like, don't mess with it's already great. I mean, just to certain people, it's already perfect. And it's like, don't just keep it that way for me. That's
right, we get it, James. You're a big Mike Zero guy. So I'm just kidding. But speaking of like
Mike Zero,
absorbing content, like who do you guys like go to on YouTube? Like obviously we want to promote this channel, whatever, but we all look at things on YouTube. Who's your go-to stuff? Obviously, like I'm a big theory guy. I love Star Wars theory. I followed him since the beginning of his channel. James
met him.
Oh, you met Theory?
I think so.
I did meet him, but I don't like him anymore.
Oh, really?
That's a whole other story.
Have you met him, Matt?
Have you met him?
No, I haven't met him. I've talked to
Okay.
him through DMs, but I have not met him.
Okay.
I go to
Interesting.
David. Ever since I've known David drops stuff for us immediately. So I don't even look at stuff anymore. David, you're on top of it all. So you pretty much between you and Colin, y'all give me all the information I need when it comes to Star Wars.
Yeah, in the beginning, like I talked about back in the late 90s, I would go to theforce.net and they would drop a lot of stuff there. But I remember now that they didn't have just about everything. I thought that was like the one-stop shop to go to back then. But I remember there was a rumor about the Obi-Wan casting. I don't think they ever posted about. And it was Kenneth Branagh being casted as Obi-Wan Kenobi first. That was a big rumor that they didn't really cover, and I didn't know about until years later. And of course, Ain't It Cool News, they posted the script, the actual script for The Phantom Menace. I didn't read that back then. But these days, and I'll go back a little further. Back in 2014, with all the hype before The Force Awakens, I would see people say, I know what's happening. This is what's happening. And it's like, yeah, you don't know what's happening. There's no way. There's no way that you could breach security or anyone on that production is going to say anything. No. But after the movie came out, you could really figure out who
knew what was going
actually had sources and who didn't. And it's like, oh my God, people know stuff before the movie.
That's why I like Theory so much, because he's never claimed to know anything. He just goes on what he knows the canon to be and what he thinks things are going to be. But then you see people like Star Wars Meg or like Mike Zero, and it's obviously clickbait. Do you guys follow? I told you last time, David, and I sent you the link. Do you follow Knights of Melvin?
No, I don't. I haven't looked at that yet.
You got to dive into everyone in the chat too. You have to dive into the Knights of Melvin, and especially go into the videos about how Disney has a yellow lightsaber agenda. And they're hilarious. I mean, it's really good, funny Star Wars content, and it's good. And obviously, you guys do a really good job. I remember when I saw you at Superhero Car Show and Comic-Con.
Yeah,
you were saying that they recognized the coin that you had.
Yeah.
Somebody had recognized the coin.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, that's huge, dude. I mean, did that make you cry immediately?
Well, they were like pushing me away from him, like, get out of here, dude. There's more people that have to get their stuff signed. And I was like, I'm having a moment here. It's like, it's Ewan McGregor. But see, he didn't recognize the coin. He just recognized the wording because I had met him earlier for the photo. And he like stared at my shirt and he like read it out loud. And he said, nice. And then we took the picture and he just remembered it because it was it the next day? I don't even remember now. But I mean, I was one of the few people that presented him something because the rule stated you could present the signee or the signer with something that they can take with them that's small, they could fit in their pocket. So I had our coin and I had our pin and I put it right in front of him and he was just signing. It was an assembly line and he was like going rapid fire. He had his glasses on. And when I put the coin in front of him, he just stopped. I guess maybe he needed to take a break too. And he took his glasses off and he looked at the coin and he goes, Star Wars Stuff Podcast. I know them. Before he looked at me and he looks at me and I'm wearing pretty much the same shirt. Yeah, and he goes, I know you. And then they just shoved me out of there. And I'm like, come on.
But you forgot the best part is he did the Ewan McGregor. Like he did the laugh.
Yeah, he did the laugh. Yeah, he did his.
I hit him with a good joke too. So we got in. I'm like, okay, well, I'm meeting Ewan McGregor. I'm not just going to be somebody he doesn't remember. So in case I ever meet him again. So I was like, hey man, huge fan of Holston. I know the shows. I know the show's doing incredible right now, but this is crazy. And he took it in for a second, and then we went to go take the picture, and he taps me on the shoulder. And that was a good one. And I was like, oh my God. And then I had to change my pants. So.
My buddy, she sent me a picture of her with
Oh, sorry.
That's you.
Guys.
Oh, I thought it was my dog. I was like, but no, my buddy, she sent me a picture of her and Ewan McGregor, and she was like, "Look, he's smiling in my picture." And I was like, that's true. I didn't see him smile at a lot of people's pictures. So she was all proud about that. She said it's because they had the same matching. She had a green shirt on and he had a green shirt on. And she was like, we bonded over green shirts and he smiled. I was like, oh, that's good.
It's funny until you go to these cons and stuff. And like, I didn't actually start going to Comic Cons until probably like 5, maybe 6 years ago. And
same here.
You start to realize why these people are so good and why they get hired to do what they do. Like the presence that they carry. Like, for example, like when I walked up to Ewan McGregor, regardless of him playing Obi-Wan or anything else, just the way that he carries himself, the way that he looks, the way that he talks, the way that he speaks, you start to see, oh my God, this is why people get paid millions of dollars. He has a presence that is unmatched. Like he could stand in a room of anybody and be the center of attention. Like they just have something about them, and that's what makes it so special. I'll love that picture for the rest of my life. It'll be in every office I have for years to come, and he'll never remember that picture, but I will. And so it's a very interesting thing for them to have to go through as well, because you watch them doing all of these things, and of course they're being paid handsomely for it. But Ewan McGregor, Giancarlo Esposito is another one who you could tell they actually do really freaking care that you care.
Yeah, Giancarlo especially.
Yeah.
So the second picture I took with Ewan at the car show, I took the first picture at Star Wars Celebration 2022 in Anaheim. I went in with my sister-in-law. She said she wanted to really take a photo with him. So when we both went in, the first person I see is Rupert Friend sitting on the couch next to him. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Rupert Friend. And he was talking to some lady, and that like drew my attention away. And Ewan immediately like started talking to my sister-in-law. And I was like, oh my God, I'm blowing it. And I tried to like talk to him, but of course they wanted to do the photo. I think I had a guy like push my shoulder.
You look
like,
at your girlfriend and say, oh my God, I'm blowing it.
And then, he puts his arm around her. I put my arm around Ewan.
Yeah.
And then the photo's done. And the last thing I could get out was, hey, Ewan, you want to come on my podcast, Star Wars Stuff Podcast? He goes, yeah, sure. And then they pushed me out.
See ya.
I was like, yeah, it was just a good.
And then you went in the bathroom and threw up immediately after.
Started crying. You're like, I can't do that one.
You go back to the DoubleTree and just have a drink.
Yeah, sure, why not? That's beautiful. That's amazing.
Hilarious.
That's the best thing.
Oh man. And what a good point for us to round on, boys. Is there anything else we got to go? I got to get out of here.
Yep, that is pretty much it.
That is
we will be, like I said, we'll be live Tuesday night before Andor hits. We're expecting it to be incredible. It's going to be essentially like a movie. It's 3 episodes, and episode 3 is spectacular according to all reports. And look out for our live stream. And if no one has anything else, for Matt, James, my name's David. May the force be with you.
Always. Pew, 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 pew.
Crushing cans.